I don't wanna be blue. I just wanna be what I wanna be.
So I thought that would get us all in a good state of mind um, to proceed with this presentation. So thank you all for being here. This really means so much to me. It's kind of a dream come true to have so many people that I really care about and respect come together in one virtual place. But I've dreamed about something like this for a long time. So thank you. I'm going to try to make this presentation as quick as possible because I know it's been a long day for most of you. It's the end of the day. You want to be with your families, and time is really precious. So just write your questions on the side and I'll address them at the end, and I'll just kind of work right through the presentation. I also want to take a moment to just have a little bit of silent prayer all together. Just for 1 minute, because I'd like to say some blessings to not only for being grateful for you all being here together, but also for the firefighters who are fighting in this area, and for any other environmental damage that's going on in your area, or any other social injustice that you're experiencing or someone around you is experiencing, because ultimately this is why we're here. This is why we're here together. We're just going to take a moment to just collect our thoughts and center ourselves from the day, and just think about what we just talked about. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start with the problem because everybody likes talking about their problems. And that's the first thing everybody thinks about are the problems. So let's just start with that and get out of the way. Young people are overexposed to inappropriate content. We know this, and most of us struggle with this all the time. And there's no editing or curating going on. They're just kind of exposed to whatever they want to find on the internet. The future of education is uncertain. We all know that, especially starting school now. We don't know what it's going to look like and how that's going to feel, and everybody's approaching it differently. And so this is also another problem in our society. And a huge one at the core of this is that depression and suicide are increasing in the teenage population, not to mention the adult population, but we're really talking about the teens here. And this is something that really needs to be addressed in a more substantial way. Because serious-minded teens are more isolated, depressed, and anxious than their peers, but we also know that kids who are really social and might appear to not have many problems also are suffering. There are a lot of opportunities out there right now for this product, which we'll get to. But teens are most inspired and influenced by their peers. We know that they really don't want to listen to us adults anymore, and they really get a lot of their information and self-esteem from their peers. Colleges and universities are starting to not take SATs or ACTs or making them optional. So this is an opportunity for universities to look for passionate kids and kids who are involved, and to see, work outside of the classroom. Getting grades is not enough for kids anymore. That's just, the world is way too complex, and just to work for an A+ or an A or 100 on your test is not satisfying to a lot of kids, especially the ones who are questioning society today. Companies and other nonprofits are looking for more socially beneficial and positive platforms to advertise, as we've seen with Facebook getting a lot more pressure to provide more appropriate content, not as much violent content, and advertisers are threatening to pull their money. Well, that is an opportunity for us. Time is of the essence. We really don't have time to wait for these kids to grow up and follow certain tracks and then share their brilliance with us. We really need to tap into their energy and their passion now. And right now, there's nothing else like the Serious Type out there. I did find something recently that's about 25 years old. It's extremely dated. It's very low ranked, but it does exist. But it's also not very user-friendly and doesn't have the kind of look and feel that we have at the Serious Type. So what is the solution? The solution is an edited and curated newspaper for teens. It's a lot like the leading newspapers today, but the contributions come from teenagers, and they're the ones who create the content. We're their guides, and we edit it, and we curate it, but we do not produce it, we don't write it. And this is really an opportunity for them to connect with one another. It'll be a little different than a newspaper in that there's not going to be changing stories every single day. Some stories might stay for a while, some might only last a day. It's kind of a combination between a magazine and a newspaper in that way. So just quickly talk about myself, which I don't, well, anyway, just to show you that I've had many different experiences professionally. I've stayed mostly at the management level or mid-level, which has given me an opportunity to see a lot of different organizations and how they work and be in different industries and get kind of a wide view. But I've never kind of like worked my way up through an organization. I've been more curious about many different things, but that's also not lent me the opportunity to kind of rise the ranks per se. And so that's why I have my Advisory Management and Leadership Board. So this group, I've known for at least 20 years, most of them 30, some of them more than 35 years. So they know me pretty well, poor things. And they have all succeeded in their fields. But what sets them apart, or why I chose this group, is because they have a breadth of contacts out there in the world from all different countries and socioeconomic backgrounds and belief systems. The idea is not to get the content from kids who are all in one small group, but from kids all over the world who have all different kinds of beliefs and raised in all different ways. And I believe that this group of people will help us do that. Their main role is to source the content, to spread the word about the Serious Type, but also to provide expertise and guidance for me as this organization grows, so that there is no cap to where it can go. And having these experts with us, I think will really help us reach the potential that we can reach. And I'd like to thank Justin and Kenny at this time, because they really helped me with this presentation and encouraged me to do this. So thank you. Moving on here. So here's our group of consultants and contractors and the local education board. So just to talk about the local education board, this is a group of, turns out to be women that I've worked closely with. Alicia was actually my student 7 years ago, brilliant student, and now she's going to be on the board here, or is on the board. And this board fulfills a lot of the legal responsibilities of having a nonprofit. The advisors don't have any legal responsibility. They're just there to provide counsel, but these people do. We'll meet regularly, record those meetings as we're supposed to with nonprofits, but they'll also help to develop content in terms of projects and curriculum. There are going to be opportunities on the website for us to give kids ideas so that they can write something. If they don't have something specifically that they're passionate about, or they know what to write about, we're going to give them ideas, we're going to give them projects, we're going to give them studies that they can get involved with. And so the Marble Charter School is going to be a partner or a lab school for this project. And hopefully as the organization grows, there might be other lab schools that we work with that have different kind of structures. So this is a small rural public charter school, but obviously there are many other kinds of schools out there, and we want to be able to work with them as well. The consultants and contractors. So I put out a call on Facebook looking for a web developer, and Bikram answered the call. I know him from business school, which was wonderful. I helped to put together a bid for what the website would look like if I could have everything that I wanted for the first year. But he also put me in touch with Priya Kral, who is his niece, which has been just kind of a godsend to have her, because she created the look and the feel in terms of, and also this logo. And I think she should be on the call, and we'll talk about her work a little bit later. Erica Savard was a student of mine. The Marble Charter School really helped to she was kind of raised in the school, and she's just a great girl, and she's has produced a video here. And David Kaplan is the lawyer who's working on we're incorporated in Colorado already as a nonprofit, but moving forward with getting the IRS letter so we can accept donations, which we can't at this point. But my sister, who is kind of the data queen and provides a lot of information about advertising. So she works at Nielsen and has for like 18 years. And so she's really an asset in that way. And then we have Michael Fitzgerald, who has this organization called Submittable. And it's wonderful software that many different companies use, publishing companies as well as universities, to organize the submissions, analyze the submissions, and help to track them. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel with that, which is wonderful. So we have Marie, who's the treasurer, Alicia, the secretary, Gina, the head of school at Marble Charter, and Eloisa, who really helps with keeping us in touch with what's going on with all the communities here in Carbondale, Maria and Cecile, who is at Aspen Country Day School, which will help us get some insight into private schools as well. And so that's great. I'm just really excited because all these people just are wonderful. Okay, so it's really important for us to know why we're doing this. If we don't know why we're doing this, then it's hard for the organization to grow. And that's what this book called Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action by Simon Sinek, that a friend Lee recommended, was all about. The idea that organizations that are not very clear about why they're doing what they're doing just don't succeed in the long run. And so why are we doing this? We're doing this to lift our spirits. We all know that these are really difficult and trying times right now for everybody. And we need as much as we can get to lift our spirits and also to raise our consciousness so that we're not only feeling good, but we're able to tackle the problems that are so pervasive today. And in order to do that, we need to raise our consciousness, our awareness, our understanding of the world, of ourselves, and how we can make it better. So here is testimony from a local teen who I've known peripherally, but have never taught her. And she's gonna give you some insight about what she thinks about the serious type.
Hey y'all, my name is Ruthie Brown. I am 17 years old and a senior at Roaring Fork High School. Am I a serious person? For the most part, I'd say that I can be serious when I need to be, and I can be hardworking and dedicated and committed to what it is that I'm doing. Would I submit something that I have created? I love poetry, I love writing, and I think that I want to share my voice. I want others to hear what I have to say, and not only me, but other youth in this valley especially, and other teenagers that are growing up in this world and these circumstances. The next question is if I am working on any long-term projects, and the answer is yes. For my capstone, I was supposed to go to Brazil and teach a number of classes at different schools. I teach self-defense, so I was going to go to that community and help out in that way. But that was canceled because of COVID. So now I am working on a different way to teach self-defense to people that might not have access to it. I'm not sure where my project will next go, but that is my long-term plan of what I'm doing currently. Yes, it really is. I often find myself feeling very overwhelmed by the problems that face everyone every day, and in particular climate change. If this community really got involved, we could do a lot. Our voices need to be heard, and they can be heard, and they can be heard on a global scale if we have the resources to do that. And it all starts with small websites and small groups and small projects like this one. So I think this is really cool and really amazing, and I'm excited. I think this will be a really important step in giving students a voice, spurring a movement here, and hopefully aiding in the larger movement towards a better future.
I don't think I could have said that any better than she did. That was perfect. So just kind of to reiterate what she was saying is that the vision and role in media in society has historically been to help social movements and has also sparked them. Almost every social movement that we can think about has some type of media, whether it's a book or a newspaper or even a flyer, that has helped to spark that change and shifted the culture. So I hope that the Sirius type is one of those types of media that really helps us propel us into the better future. How do we realize the why? So we know why we're doing this, but how do we realize it? So at the core here is promoting sustainability. And sustainability, I know a lot of people think of when they first hear it is about the environment. And that's certainly a piece of it, but that's not all that it is. There are 3 E's of sustainability, or as we teach at the Colorado Community College, where I taught sustainable business, but there are 3 E's: equity, environment, and economy. You know, we know about social justice, nature, and science, but the economy, you know, that's kind of the bottom line of sustainability. If you can't sustain your organization financially, even if it's just paying the bills, then it can't exist. And that's really important. And that's part of innovation and growth in society. If we don't grow, if we don't innovate, if we don't challenge people to create new ways of thinking, new products, then we can't grow as a society and we won't be sustainable. So we have to make sure that we think about that piece too. So what are the 4 things that we can think about when we are promoting this core mission? Is to elevate the conversation among students, because a lot of times their conversation, if they want to speak at a higher level, there's really not a platform for them to. It's not really promoted in our society also to have these serious conversations as a young person. We're going to build community through different message boards, and we'll get to that. Publish only polished, appropriate, and constructive content. So this is not about promoting any kind of political agenda or a religious or non-religious agenda. This is really about having kids voice their feelings, their thoughts, what they've learned. And as long as the work is polished, what I mean by that, grammatically correct or really just well done, and it's appropriate, you know, no curse words or really rude slurs, and that it's constructive, that it's building up the conversation. We don't want any destructive content here. We don't want anything that's it doesn't have to be all happy and sunshiny, but it can't tear people down. So those are the 3 parts. And if a piece of work is submitted, has that, then we're going to publish it. This is also to motivate and inspire our students to self-teach, as many of our kids are distance learning right now, and many of them are not even able to go to school at all. They're really going to have to learn how to self-teach. And this is something I really learned as a teacher, that if we can have our kids teach themselves and know how to teach themselves and ask the right questions and find the right resources and the right people, then they're at a huge advantage. And a lot of us have continued to learn over the years. And part of that is being able to teach yourself. What are some examples of original content? Fiction, here's a whole list of different fictional pieces, probably left out some as well, but there's a space for all this. But not all kids are artists and not all kids are creative in that way, but they still, there's a lot for them to do, even more for them to do. There's science and engineering projects and ideas that will also offer them if they don't have their own projects to work on. Business entrepreneurship. I mean, there are a lot of kids who are already starting their own organizations or starting their own little businesses so they can make money, and they can talk about that and write about that and share. We have, you know, they can tell stories about their local, you know, the leaders in their local community. They can interview people like let's say the police department, or, you know, the doctors and the nurses or their teachers, or anybody in the community that they want to know more about. And also when they're traveling, they can write stories about their traveling experiences. You know, activism, political commentary, there's a whole list here. Even if, you know, writing food reviews, and that there's a place for that too. It doesn't have to be highly intellectual, but it has to somehow promote our mission and be well done. Functionality, these are the different things that the website should do. The submittable software that I talked about before will help us to upload and manage and track the files. Obviously download projects, have message boards so that the kids can communicate with one another, although they're not going to be able to comment on each story, because we really want to be sensitive to criticism. I mean, it's important to learn how to take criticism, but when kids are just putting out their work, I think it's really important to be sensitive to that. So there'll be a place where you could see how many people have read your work, and you can comment it separately in a separate message board, but not specifically on the article itself or the piece of work itself. Parents will have to sign on, or guardian will help to sign on, so that we're all protected. Their privacy is protected. It'll be anonymous sign on as well. There are already software out there like Turnitin that detects plagiarism. So as the site grows, I think that'll be important, so that kids, you know, they're just like anybody else. They sometimes take material from other people that they shouldn't. And I think that we need to protect ourselves from that as well. Moving forward in the next year, there'll be a reward program where kids can get points for whatever work that they have that's been accepted, that they submitted, and that can turn into giving them products from our advertisers or even non-advertisers. All products will be sustainably sourced and have a sustainability mission behind it, so it won't just be any product. And e-commerce, so I never thought I'd want to sell t-shirts, but I think we could sell sustainably sourced and produced t-shirts and promote the idea of being a serious teen and make it cool. I am a serious teen. I can see that on the hats. And, you know, I just think that kids, you know, right now, when you think about the other social media platforms, they don't really advertise it through personal goods, but our e-commerce site, which could be a B Corp or a corporation, so it can be for profit, even though it's owned by the nonprofit, and that money can be fed into the nonprofit. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And this design was done by Priya Kral, who is at Washington University in St. Louis. Priya, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. I'm right here.
Okay, so can people see you when you speak?
I believe so. Can everybody see me?
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
It's gonna be a fight here, but anyway, I'll let you talk about your work. But
awesome. Yeah, so I'm Priya. I'm a rising senior at Washington University in St. Louis, and I did the logo and the look and feel of these website mockups. So, you know, working for the Serious Type was a very interesting challenge. I had to create something that had the gravity of a traditional newspaper, but that it was accessible and palatable to middle schoolers and high schoolers. So a very tough crowd. So you can see here, this is the home page, and I've utilized 3 different typefaces. One is Super Clarendon, which you can see as the header. That's the text that's in the Serious Type. And the other 2 are Franklin Gothic and Courier. And all 3 of these typefaces harken back to 19th and 20th century metal typefaces that were originally used in the United States and in the UK for printing, like newspapers and press and stuff like that. So this is the homepage, as you can see here. We have like a top navigation with all these different types of articles. And on the side, you can see featured visual arts pieces. So if you can go to the next slide.
sure.
Yeah. So here we have, you know, 3 potential pages of the Serious Type. So you have your home page, you have your page that you would get to if you clicked on one of those main headers, so science and health. You see articles such as Musings in Science, and what you'll see on each of these 3 pages is a column on the side that allows kids to access different kinds of articles and explore more and must read in other sections of the site. So, and then on this 3rd page that you see here, Arts and Culture, that's what it would look like if you clicked on an individual article. So you can see here that this website can support large chunks of text, such as the Viking, as well as clickers for little individual articles. And so another important aspect when I was designing these website mockups was the actual logo itself. So the Sirius type, as you can see, it's set in Super Clarendon, which is a rework of the original Clarendon typeface, which was produced in the 19th century. But this rework of Clarendon is more playful, it's got more playful serifs, and it's much more approachable for middle school and high schoolers. You can also see in the O, that is a graphic that can be extrapolated to use on its own. And so this graphic at first glance does seem like an eye. But what you may not be able to tell is that it's also an abstracted version of a glance of the Earth from an aerial view. So this alludes to both the sustainability and the seriousness of people who are reading the Sirius type, as well as integrating the actual O from the Super Clarendon typeface itself. So this asset can be extrapolated, it can be put on e-commerce and merchandise, as well as just being used as a decorative element, and it works within the title itself. So basically, overall, you can see it's a very text-focused layout, and it's very simple, and it focuses on the content, so kids really, what they're trying to say is very apparent, and, the design supports that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Priya. So again, do you want to talk about what this white little piece is?
Yeah, so in the abstracted view of the Earth from the Northern Hemisphere, you have a view, that little white bit is Greenland, actually, and then you can see the top of North America and Canada, as well as Russia.
Right. So,
yeah. And the blue is the ocean.
Brilliant. I mean, I couldn't be any happier. I think it's really stunning. So thank you so much for joining the call too, and for being a part of this project, and have an amazing year at school, and keep in touch. Anyway, thank you again. So here also you can see the advertising at the bottom here. So we chose Patagonia because that's really the most well-known sustainable large company. And kids know this about Patagonia, and they're really excited about the company. But out of respect for students too, we're not gonna have flashing ads, and we're not gonna inundate them with things to buy. But we are going to have a page here that says sponsored by, and so that's how we'll get our advertisers. And obviously the more looked at pages will be more expensive than the other ones, but I think this is a fair compromise. And again, they'll be able to give away their products, but also put it in the hands of different students through our award program. So let's talk about the demographics and some of these pieces. That there are 43 million adolescents in the US alone. We know there are lots of young kids. We don't really need the numbers to tell us that, but it is true. And 20% of them experience at least one depressive episode during adolescence. And I really do believe that part of being depressed is obviously it's a complex situation, but not having a purpose or a meaning in life and feeling helpless is a huge component of being depressed, whether you account for the chemical imbalance or not. When we have purpose and meaning, and we know why we're here and what our life is about, or at least part of that, and we know that we're on a path or a journey, then life becomes a lot more meaningful and easier. And so now I really believe that this kind of platform will help kids who suffer from depression and anxiety. So 45% of teenagers are online almost constantly, and 97% use a social media platform. And this would obviously, they would still be using these platforms, but also the Sirius team. But a lot of them are not sure what they should be looking at and reading. And so again, the Sirius type allows the student to be able to navigate different topics that they're interested in, because we have the headings and then we have the subheadings, and maybe there'll be headings underneath there as well, but it'll help them to learn what they want to learn and navigate it that way. So adults can still use this site, of course. I'm really hoping that adults and professionals use it to be in the know what's going on with their kids, be inspired by different ideas, apply the data to solutions, and obviously to supplement education right now. That's really needed in the marketplace right now. Almost everything that I've seen is about teachers providing content to students or to other teachers to teach them how to teach the kids, but I haven't really seen anything that's student driven. where are we going to get this content? We're going to market, and we're also going to market through different partnerships. And you all are a big part of that, but also there are many different ways that we can reach kids while still remaining cool. And I think the look and the feel is really what will maintain that cool aspect of the website. But, you know, parents and guardians and educators, mentors, psychologists, you know, young influencers. On the last call, they talked about getting a celebrity behind this, which is always great, but we've got to make sure that we work with a celebrity who also has a similar cause that they're endorsing, which would be either sustainability or mental health. I think mental health is a really big cause that this site will help with. And then other popular social media platforms where we can advertise to also source content and bring people to the site, users and advertisers. So here is really interesting because kids actually do use Facebook and Twitter and Reddit, which in my mind are a little bit more meaty websites where kids can really delve into different topics, compared to maybe YouTube or Instagram or Snapchat or even TikTok, which is not on here. This is a couple of years old, but you know, they really are using these different platforms like we are. And some of them are using them most often, like Facebook, which I think is a very positive sign because there's a lot of articles and content on Facebook. And we can see here that they also sell 42.2% of all of the ads. So as advertisers pull away or might pull away, there's obviously a lot, there's going to be a void there that we can really take advantage of. Here, kids really do have a lot of positive feelings online. A lot of times we focus on the negative feelings, but there are a lot of positive feelings that kids get. They feel more connected and they feel like they know what their place is and they can share themselves, and they're also more in touch with friends. And that's going to be more important than ever because of the distance learning. And all the negative feelings really doesn't apply to the serious type. There's pressure to only post content that makes them look good to others. That's not really going to be the case with the serious type. They're overwhelmed because of the drama. Hopefully there won't be much drama. We'll also be monitoring the message boards and have them be able to speak as freely as they can, but there will be, you know, we've got to make sure that it's all still appropriate because, you know, that's what we're about. And so I think the negative feelings really are going to be mitigated by the positive feelings and also by just the basic structure of this website. Here's a competitive landscape. So if we can look at some other different social media and also some magazines over here, we see that no other one has everything that the serious type has in terms of design, especially for youth. You know, we only have 17 and teen that really is just made for teens, that monitors and edits for safe and appropriate content. They're all entertaining, of course, or else they would, you know, if it's not entertaining, that's a big part of our society. It's hard to be successful, but educational, but you can define entertaining but in all different ways. But none of them are educational or partnering with academic professionals. They're, you know, used as news sources, a lot of them, and people can get rewards through YouTube. You can make a lot of money on YouTube, but not really with the other. You can gain popularity, but anyway, all of them have an interactive community building piece. 17 and teen, not so much. I can't really comment on there either, but they are on all the other social media platforms. And in that way, there's community building, but not directly on the site itself. But through our message boards, there will be on the serious type. Online traffic. So they talk a lot about these different statistics when we're talking about kind of the stickiness or of users. So their total visits and pages per visit and the bounce rate and like how long, you know, how do people go on to another page or they stay on the first page? But I thought this was really a very interesting number that we don't talk a lot about, which is how long are people actually staying on the site when they go on. And we can see here, even National Geographic is less than 3 minutes. The New York Times is just 3 minutes. Teen Inc. is that website that I was talking about. You can see it's a really low rank. But still, the kids who are on there are there for 7.5 minutes. A little bit longer. We see that Fox News has twice the amount of watchership, I don't know if that's a word, anyway, than the New York Times or CNN, basically. Study News was a free student essay, so we see kids spending more time here. I'm assuming that they're younger people. Reddit, Facebook, Google, but 17 and Teen Vogue, 2 times the amount of time people are spending on these sites. And I think that's a really important metric. And I think that that's the one that we should really focus on. And our goal should be that they stay on, and the stickiness is high, that they stay on to these websites as long as they possibly can, so that we can help to promote focus, we can help to promote reading, and communicating with one another. So I think these are really encouraging numbers, and I'm hoping that we see the same or even better. So how are we going to sustain ourselves economically or financially? These are the primary drivers: advertising and foundation and grants. Because we are a nonprofit, we can take money in all these different ways. We can build that e-commerce side too. Here are some secondary drivers, which I see as a much smaller percentage, but new business development through the different ideas that some students might have. Referrals to fee-based educational courses. That is, if we see a student who's really interested in one topic and we can suggest to him or her that they should, or that they can go to different places to take a course. And if there's a fee associated with that, perhaps we can get a kickback or referral from those organizations if we partner with them. And then the sale of the data. Now, we cannot legally sell any of the data specifically about the students, nor would we want to, but all the data that they actually collect themselves. So if we have a study and the students go out and conduct that study, then we can use that data and perhaps we can sell it for positive means. So the operations and the growth of this organization, the meat of it really are the educators and the freelance editors. So we are not an artificial intelligence company. We are not just going through this information using technology. We're using real living, breathing people. And that's where the bulk of the costs will be. We'll also be partnering with other schools to help provide content, and perhaps we are able to pay them too, so we can also help to sustain different schools as well. So this is where the bulk of the money will eventually go, or why we're raising the money. So here are the major tasks as I see it for the next year. We're already a nonprofit, but we need to receive the letter, the IRS letter, and without the letter, then we can't receive donations. So that's that takes a couple months. So we're in the process of that right now. So that's why we're not actively fundraising. But the next step will be to develop the first iteration of the website, just to test out the operations, see how it works, see how do we interact with the student, what's efficient, what's not efficient. What I learned most from my days in the .com world was that they really weren't focusing on the foundation, on the operations, which is the side that I worked on. It was all about promoting and the marketing and the look and the feel of it, but a lot of the operational pieces, the behind the scenes, were ignored, and that's why a lot of them fell apart. There was really growth too fast also. So I think it's important for us to learn from the first iteration, and then during that time, once the money is raised so that we can build a more robust website, then we transfer over to the second iteration almost later in the year, much later in the year. But meanwhile, we'll have a website that different people can look at, especially foundations, so we can start writing grants. I think we'll be much more successful raising money from grants and individuals if there's actually something that they can see that's up and running and working. And then in year 2, develop the e-commerce and reward program. Here are the financials, the budget for year 1 as I see it. Obviously, you could put an unlimited amount of money into this, but as I said before, I think it's important to build a really strong foundation. I wrote it this way, that it's there's an optimal amount of money that I think that would really help us to be able to build that second iteration within the first year. And then the baseline is really, if we want to operate with that kind of bare bones, simple website, it's still going to take money, but not as much money to do. So it's all about how much money we can bring in, and then how we disperse that money. So that's really the end of the presentation. Here are the references for some of the statements that I made. And here is a picture of the Marble Charter School today, this morning. They were all part of this presentation. You can see they're outside and they're watching it. And it was really great to have them there and Carly took the picture, and here's Gina, who's the head of school, and Maria, who's also on the board. And they're really excited to be a part of this project to help build and create some curriculum pieces or project pieces, and also to keep the organization grounded. It's really important that we stay connected with students, specific students, get their feedback, know what's working, know what's, and know what's not working, because if we're too high a level and we're just looking at the website itself, we're going to miss a lot. So that's it. We're finished with the presentation. Thank you all for being here, and I'm ready to look at the questions, if there are questions here. Let's see, where are the questions?
Were we supposed to submit questions in the chat?
You could, but you can also ask me. So now is the time for questions. Anybody have any questions?
Nikki, how will the student contributors, let's say the writers, content, will you sort of, I guess, audition them and onboard them, and then they become like a contributor, or is it just sort of content submitted ad hoc, and if it passes, it's just published?
I think that's the way, they'll just submit like you would submit to any kind of journal. I think it's safer that way too, so that we're not having too many interactions with the student in terms of, you know what I mean? I just think that it's kind of cleaner. There will be interaction in terms of feedback, really sensitive feedback and specific feedback if we're not going to submit it, if it's not done. But I think building, are you talking about like a mentorship program kind of thing?
No, I just wonder if someone becomes, if the only people contributing are onboarded officially, they're like the serious type contributor, or kids just submit content, and if it gets passed, it's just, it's posted, or it's a combination. Could you have a regular contributor who's identified like on a masthead?
I haven't thought of it that way. I mean, I think they'd have the same username and they'd show up a lot. And yes, I mean, you could have somebody who submits a lot of work and it gets accepted for sure. And I think there could be an algorithm where as often as the page is seen, then it can go higher on that rank, because it said, like top 10. So, and there could be, did you see at the bottom of the page, it says letter from the editor, or from an editor. It doesn't necessarily have to be from me, but it could be that there's a specific student that maybe gets their own letter, I mean, I think that we grow as we see what happens, and that's part of doing the smaller website first. Just see, like, is there somebody who's always sending work, and how do we develop that relationship? I think it's a good question.
I'm so excited to hear this. Along those same lines, have you looked at Thrive Global? It's Ariana Huffington's space. Obviously, it's not designated for children, but their submission model for writers is a great way to tie in Lewis's question, because you submit, it goes through an approval process. They submit it in WordPress. You submit in WordPress, so it's already designed and ready to get uploaded into your site. So it saves you all of that mechanical piece of it if you choose to accept it. It's a great model. My question is,
it's interesting because she came up in the last call and said, this is like a Huffington Post for kids, which I don't really read that paper much.
Post, Thrive Global.
Okay.
Thrive Global, and their intent is very much to uplift. I mean, she wrote Thrive because she broke down. Their model is worth checking out, even if there's no relationship to what you want to do. It works. They vet people who submit regularly, have their own profile. It's a doable, already in place model. You use your web publishing site, your web publishing content to have it be submitted. It's very smooth.
Okay.
My question is, so you have the polished acronym.
Mm-hmm.
What's the vision for the advertiser footprint, and what they're going to be invited to do and restricted from doing? And we are exposing youth to a lot of impressions of a lot of stuff.
I think that's a really good question. You mean, what criteria do we use to say, yes, you can advertise? I think it's a great question and will have to be developed. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why I started this was because I built this, this questionnaire that kids were going to use. That was the beginning idea of this organization. They were going to go into small businesses and they were going to rate them on their sustainability and then put together a report and present it to the business. And maybe that's how we set the criteria using that same curriculum, which I have developed already, but that's great. Anybody else?
Nikki, I have actually two questions. First of all, phenomenal. This looks great and really exciting. First question is just on length. A lot of the other sites that you showed us where they have extreme numbers, very often that's because these articles are very short and they're snippets. And Instagram is popular because you're only allowed a certain number of characters. Are you going to have a maximum length on these articles? Are there criteria for the articles?
I don't think to start that way. I mean, I don't want to cap any kind of creativity. And I don't think we should start off that way, put it that way, And I think what we could provide though on each page is statistics about the reading. So how long does it take someone to read this article? How long do they keep it up? And that could be feedback for the writer. Well, this was a really long article and it was too long for people to stay, engaged with it. Something like that. Instead of giving them statistics of like how many people liked it, we could give them statistics about actually the use and the readership. So, but yeah, I don't want to limit their creativity. But maybe they'll learn, that's part of the mentorship piece. Or at least the communicating with the editor, that the editor could say, hey, listen, if you do it, this is great, but if you wrote just 300, word, whatever, that you'd get a better chance of being read. But then it's ultimately up to the student. I just want to empower them as much as possible.
Hey, Nikki, it's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. I have a question regarding focus groups. You mentioned that you have some students that are going to be giving you feedback. So do you have how big is what you might call a focus group for you?
What do you mean, the school that I'm working with, or?
No, do you have a pool of kids that can react to the design, to the intent, the size of the articles, what level of focus they can maintain
right.
At a time?
Yeah, I mean, I do through the schools, through the Marlboro Charter School, and also, through a lot of local kids as well. I mean, that's something that we could definitely put together. That's beyond the school, and also on the board, we have other teachers too who can tap into students in their community.
Okay.
Maybe,
okay.
I don't have a specific group right now, but that's why I'm partnering with schools so we can get that feedback from them.
Right, because going back to the speaker who was before me, the challenge I think will be that the use of devices now has really shortened the attention span of the kids. So that's one thing that you might pay attention to. They may be able to tell you, is this too long, too short? Like how
Right.
What's going to grab them? Because Teen Vogue and I forget the other one that you mentioned are banking on a brand that's been in existence for quite a long time. But for something that's new, you'd have to, that'll be something to calibrate over time.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you. Anybody else? What do we have? We have 9 minutes, or we can go early because I know everybody is busy. But
Okay, my daughter start contributing.
I wish you would. Cecile, did you see Sasha's story on there?
No.
So some of that content was real. Some of that content was from my students. Some of it I made up, and it wasn't international enough. I realized, like, a lot of stories are American based, but that whole story was a student of mine who wrote The Viking. I did not write The Viking, but
I was going to ask you about that.
it's very violent. But that's my student, and he's a great writer, and he's 13 years old. I mean, I think working at the charter school, tiny little rural school in the middle of nowhere, there just was enormous talent. And so when I just think about the rest of this country, I just think there is a lot of talent out there. And I think that kids have a longer attention span than we think they do. I think there are a bunch of them, not all of them, obviously, but there are a lot, like you saw in the video, of kids who like to read and write. And, you know, this student, he wrote an inordinate amount and he would read an inordinate amount. And I just think that there are students like that, but there's no place for them right now on social media. So I do have faith and belief that there are kids who are deeper thinkers, and they don't all want sound bites.
Hey, Nikki, question. With sites that flourish as a part of a sort of a network, there's always that chicken and the egg problem. You know, how do you drive people to a site until there are you know, or before there are people on that site, right? Have you thought about how you would roll this out? I mean, is it your thought that you would just start trying to publicize it through you know, conversations like this nationally, or would you focus in your community and then in Colorado and then sort of expanding it out that way? Have you thought about sort of how that rollout might happen?
Yeah, well, I think that that's part of the role of the advisors, who are geographically pretty diverse in this country and some in other countries. And as long as the work is in English, you know, because I can't edit work that's not in English, it's acceptable. So a lot of people around the world speak English. But I think using personal networks, like I said, but then also going through the schools and going through all those different networks that I talked about. And on the last call, they really talked about working with a celebrity, because obviously when you partner with a celebrity, you know, that changes everything. But I think it's really important who that person would be. And again, that they champion the same causes that we're championing. But I thought that, you know, it's important to actually build the site before we actually kind of, you know, go really intently go and try to get users, because the worst thing would be is if we got people and it didn't work and the whole system didn't work and then we lost them forever. So I really want to make sure that we focus on the operations and spend the year doing that. And then when it's pretty solid, you know, then I think that we can feel really confident about going out into the marketplace in a really big way. And I just think that there are enough avenues for that. And that the site in many ways will sell itself. But if we partner with the right people, I think that it really has a great shot. Anything else?
Nick, along those lines, Nikki, what about organizations like Do Something, right? It's specifically oriented. It's huge. It's been around forever. And it's all about people. It's all about youth diving in and making a difference, right? And I checked while I was listening to you, because you're a huge supporter. This is amazing. I'm jealous. But I checked to see if they had any teen publishers while I was listening, and I didn't have enough time to really dig in. But those kinds of partnerships are where you get credibility of an organization that is already engaging youth to say, stand up, you're important, you're doing something important, and you can do anything you want. And that kind of partnership, I think, would create a really easy on-ramp and a broad network. And there's probably a half dozen more that are similar to that you could plug into.
I think it'd be really hard to connect with Do Something, though.
No, it wouldn't. It would be easy.
Oh, right.
It's totally doable.
Okay.
But I think that's one of the things that you're battling too. So, you know, Karen talked about the attention span, but you're looking at credibility. And credibility with the teenagers, with the adolescents that haven't heard of you and that don't know why you matter or why this model matters or whatever. I get why people say a celeb, but it's actually more important to have vocal teens. Like one of the teens from my kid's school is the one who's doing all the climate change stuff, right? And she, Margolis, whatever her name is. She's published books, she speaks at the White House, you know, or at Congress. And those are the people who kids look at and say, oh, I trust these guys. They know what they're talking about. They're not going to steer me wrong.
I agree. That was like that young influencers group. And I've seen that in my own daughter's life. You know, she has a couple of influencers that really have made a huge impact in her life, really changed how she goes about the world, actually. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that, you know, that's my first go-to. I really do think that those young influencers are key, and I agree. But yes, this is going to be a huge challenge, but I feel like we really can overcome those challenges. And if we put our minds to it and just kind of, you know, connect with the right people. But I agree that that's going to be a big part.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get the halo effect, right? Like MBA speak, right? You'll be borrowing the credibility of a partner like Do Something or another partner that fits your model well to engage their whole network, right? And if the models are complementary, then everybody wins.
We have
I
2
think
minutes.
that's,
We have 2 minutes, and I really want to respect everybody's time. Yes?
no, I think that's a great point. And then one other comment I was wondering, a question, is how do you monitor the message boards? I know you and I have had conversations about building that community online. You know, like today, I had a teachable moment with my 11-year-old with what he posted, Republicans, right? The same thing will need to happen if you have message boards. And have you given any thought to how you'll police that and make sure that people are learning to communicate appropriately while being very vocal,
Yeah,
you know,
I think that that's
sharing their feelings?
part of the learning curve. I mean, I think there's a part of it that can be automated when it comes to, you know, certain words. I think we can automate that. But I think that's also going to be a challenge, which is why I want to kind of start off smaller and see what that looks like and what we can do about it, and tackle that problem before we have, you know, millions of people or whatever, hundreds of thousands of people on the site. If we start small and see how this works and how can we monitor the message board and does it even make sense, then I think then we'd be ready to really go out and get a lot more users. But I agree. I think that these are all great. This is all great feedback and great challenges, but I don't think it's anything that we can't overcome. Okay, well, we're out of time. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I mean, I can't even tell you how much it means to me. And I really am so thrilled that you're all part of this and at least on board in some way or another. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
It was well thought through and very well presented, Nikki. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
see ya.
It's
All
great,
right.
Nikki.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, Nikki. Awesome job.
Bye.
Nikki, I'm sorry I kept my video off most of the time. It was so good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I had a work call that would not end. It's great. It's so fascinating.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you liked it and that you felt, you know, are most people often, yeah?
Yeah, I think only your sister can hear us. So, hey, Sammy B. But it was so funny. Does Sarah know Kenny?
No.
I like literally sent him a private message saying, ha, 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 ha. Because I was like, oh, that's really funny that she mentions that one organization out of anything. But I was about to type in the chat and then I realized no one was using it and I didn't want to be distracting by turning on my video at the last minute. But I think it's safer to not partner with an organization anytime soon or a celebrity, because look at what happens to celebrities.
Right, right.
I think you want as many young influencers as you can get with a broad scope. But if you partner with one celebrity and they end up, you know, being tarnished, you're done.
Well, that was my first feeling. And then, you know, it's interesting, different people's feedback. Like they think that'll make all the difference. But I tend to think, like, just because of this, Sammy, are you on? I don't know if she's listening, but you know,
no, she devices on. One of her devices must not be working well for Zoom.
But Ruby has these twins that she follows, and they've, you know, influenced her in a very positive way. And I just think that
It's so much more powerful. You just need to have some kind of, I don't know if you mentioned this and I might have missed it, but some kind of affiliate program or something that they get back for being an influencer, and have a broad range of them. I mean, meaning like a way for, you know, what you're talking about with these chat boards and moderation. I mean, just to give an easy analogy or example to it, like I'm part of these local Facebook moms groups. Tell them to just get back in. Yeah, tell them to get back in the room.
I'm talking to Nicole right now.
Oh, you are?
I think he can re-enter. I think he can just join back in.
Yeah. So
what
did you think?
But so the moderation part, I don't know if he can even hear this, is that if you have admins, the group can be self-policing on a chat. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you can flag, the technology is going to let you flag certain words.
Right.
And then people will be expected to, they're going to have a certain code of, like an ethics code and a statement of proper use of the site. And if they are not communicating in a polite and reasonable way in the chat, or if they're being divisive, then they're asked to leave, you know? But I think there also has to be, you know, I don't know if you do participate in a lot of these groups, but people get very upset when comments are deleted, because, you know, comments always have a trail of replies. And so then when a lot of people have tried to make thoughtful ways of steering something around, they get really offended when things are, so I think, you know, not deleting might be a policy, unless things are, you know, hate speech or what have you. But then the other thing with the, I think you can partner with so many organizations that are broad without them being hooked into a person, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that was my first feeling.
Yeah, I would definitely argue on the side of that, just because also when you get, the other thing is, like, this is such a good idea, and this is, I mean, who knows, you know, I could be one of 10 people that think this way, and then you'll find 10 others that think the exact opposite way. I think it's a very good idea, and starting an organization, and then as soon as you align yourself with a person, I'm not that celebrity focused, but I know that there are things out there, people are like, they're like, oh yeah, that's Angelina Jolie's thing, or oh yeah, that's Gwyneth Paltrow's thing, or oh yeah, that's Cameron Diaz's thing, you know, or so-and-so. And I think, you know, it's just like, even, was it Karen or Sarah said, oh, you know, Ariana Huffington's thing. And as soon as you hear the name Ariana Huffington, I already have an idea formed about what it is. And then there's this block that I think, you know, if you have this really great framework, you want people to get on board, and you're already doing something that's like, that's supposed to be about inner drive of a child or a teen, as opposed to outside. You know, you want them to be showing up to participate, and it's self-development, not like the end goal of being like Ariana Huffington or Andrew Shue, you know?
No, I like the way you're thinking. I really do. I think that was my gut reaction.
It was great. I loved it. Can I ask you a favor though? Because after the first 15 minutes, I was finishing this call. Can I see, are you going to share the recording or no?
I can. I mean, some people ask me for you. I would, you know, for people I don't know.
And now you're gonna have to edit me off at the end. Oh my goodness! You know how to
really in the
edit your Zoom recordings.
Can you still see this? Am I still sharing this introduction?
You're still recording. You have the document up. You can press end recording now too. I can see this now. I thought it was great. You also presented so well.
Really? Okay. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
And so it's good to know. Like.
No, I mean listen. I think it's very challenging to present over Zoom. So I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you so much. I really.
You had a nice crowd. I saw Sudan was on there.
Yeah.
So good. We'll let you talk to Kenny. I love you. I miss you.
Much, Nicole. I love you too. I'm so glad you
Yeah.
could. I really appreciate it.
We'll call. I was going to say, call me anytime this week, and I'm actually packing up my apartment
Where are you going?
to New Jersey.
Oh, you are? Is she going to go to school there?
Elizabeth Morrow. I haven't told Horace Mann yet. I haven't spoken to Horace Mann yet, and I haven't
That's I think
signed the contract. I really need to find the house. I'm having a little bit of a challenge finding a house.
me again.
I know. You're so cute. Talk to him. Yeah, I love you. Call me this weekend though, because I just started packing my books, and I'm like, oh,
I
it's the
will.
worst.
Okay.
All right,
Nicole,
great job.
thank you. Bye.
Bravo. Bravo.
Thank you. It's okay. I don't know what happened. I was with Nicole here. So now she's gone.